All right, here we are starting our playlist for typical test question number 2. Notice here we've got our results from typical test question 1. That results are found written on our first YouTube playlist. Now, for typical test question 2, which is not going to ask you to compare outputs, it's just going to ask you which economy has more output than the other. To learn that, we have to move past the simple world of the last playlist. We have to introduce another year. So we're going to introduce year 11. We're going to focus on year 11 compared to year 1 eventually. That gives us a nice 10-year interval that will be kind of fun to think about. And let's say we have 450 loaves of bread and 55 suits in year 11. First thing to do, and you go ahead and do this, is to calculate the output of year 11, and let's do it with the base year 1. So let's have you fill in the value there and make the output comparison also. What's the output comparison of year 11 to year 1? Okay, go ahead and do that, and then we'll return. Okay, there we go. I hope that you determined that the real output for year 11 was $725. Base year 2, of course, is just going to be double that, would be $1,450. So we're not really interested in those numbers at all. Let's get rid of those. What I want you to do is to focus on the comparison of year 11 to year 1. First point, of course, to note is that although suits increased, the decline in bread was big enough to give us a reduction in output overall. Let's talk about how big a reduction. Go ahead and make the calculation of the comparison. All right, for the output comparison, we're going to take the later value, 725. Oops, I messed up on my calculator. 725, we're going to divide it by the starting value of 750. And there we go. We find out 725 divided by 750 is 0.966. Let's call it about 97%. And our output comparison is that year 11 has 97% as much output as year 1. If you wanted you could say it's about a 3% decline, but later we'll use a log to do that properly. Okay, the next step is to introduce prices for year 11, and finally we're going to do something different, and I hope you find it interesting. Let's suppose prices in year 11 are $2 for a loaf of bread, just like they were in year 2. And now let's make it interesting and have the price of suits be $7. This is the critical point here that you need to recognize. You need to say, aha, something's happened here. In particular, look at this. The 7-2 versus either 5-1 or 10-2. The key point is that suits are only worth 3.5 times as much as bread, whereas they used to be worth 5 times as much. Year 1 and year 2 have the same comparative or relative prices of suits and bread. Year 11 has introduced this new value, comparative value, think comparative advantage perhaps, the new values of breads and suits. Go ahead and calculate your real output using base 11 as using year 11 as the base, and let's see what we get as results.